This is how we ride. This is how we do.
To get you, you're not saying no.
I'd never say no to nothing. Like, you know. Here's the thing: doing something different and being nervous and failing is all part of like succeeding, man. Like you get your juices flowing. Like I'm getting ready to go to the Chili Bowl, and I ran the C main last year, so like the pressure's on. Like I don't want to do that again. So like, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go give it my best, and hopefully it works out. And then I walk out of there thinking, I'm still one of the guys. Like that's what I do. Like. Just like when I run a big block, man. I went to Middletown, I'm like, man, I might not make the race.
People are begging to get into those C mains at the Chili Bowl, man. Anything from the E main up is an A main in any non-wing situation there is.
I understand, but you're also talking to somebody that never run one of those in his career going to the Chili Bowl. So it's like, like I said, there's nobody that's going to put more pressure on me than me. So, like, no matter what I do in life, I think I should win. Whether I'm good at it or whether I don't even know what I'm doing, I feel like you overcome. You always overcome. You try your best to overcome. So, going in there and running that Eldora for $1 million, God, it would be wild. I mean, but also, it would be really hard because those guys are good at what they do.
Well, I don't get the whole notion that I'm getting older. If I was getting older, I'm being like, I got to do everything I can before this ride is over. So I'm just saying, right? I mean, that's what's coming inevitably. Yeah. I mean, the older you get, the closer the end is getting. So I would be trying to jump off mountains.
With that, you try to
go ahead.
Well, when you say that, you try to find something that's more like, okay, you know what I've never done before? I've never gone to Charlotte and just hot lap the sprint cars. So that's when you're getting older, you're like, yeah, I'll just try this over on the side for fun.
Hey, man.
Like I'll go, you know what I mean? I'll go climb Mount Everest or something. But like, I don't know, man, you're asking me to roll into obviously the most money race they got. And it's tough. I mean,
get your eye racing on. Get your eye racing out, drive the sprint car a little bit, break the sweat on how to get through the corner. I mean, I'm not joking there in a way. I do think that if somebody wants to get into the real thing, they should get some kind of sim laps, something, just to get an idea. But what I'm saying is you going to race this race is a reality if you want it to happen.
Well, I mean, just like anything. If somebody was to call me, offer me a fair deal where we thought
if it was Donnie Shots, we're bringing an extra car, you're in.
I don't know. I'd have to talk to him. He'd have to say, hey, Tim, this is what we're looking to accomplish here. Because it's not just easy as just unloading your other car, because that just hurts everybody. Like, if you're bringing this in there, I'm telling you, man, when I won the Chili Bowl, we rolled in there with a team that was poised to win, that ran fifth the year before. And they put their total faith in me. And they said, hey, here's the deal. We're going to hot lap. Because the second year we had hot laps. And we hot lapped twice. And we changed the setup both ways. And the way I set up a big block, the way they set up a midget, and whatever was faster is the way we raced. And that's what I mean by that. Because if you think I'm going to roll into any sprint car race and just beat them guys based off of what Brad Sweet runs, or even Tony Stewart or whoever, Donnie Shots runs, is just lunacy.
Hold on. So,
but
go ahead.
If you open your mind and we roll into, hey, this is good based off of maybe a practice somewheres, you never know what could happen. Like, in my opinion,
there is a real wall between the late model people, drivers, everything, and the sprint car people, drivers, fans, everything. If that wall was to break, we would be way farther in advancement, I think, in the dirt world as well. But what I'm saying is you're right. And there's a lot of talking shit between who could drive what. Obviously they threw – Jason Sides got drunk, 2 years ago, and threw Brandon Overton in his car at Charlotte. And made it through heat races or something and quit or something, or C main at the back.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I think that – if you really wanted to do this, and this was a situation, I don't think anyone in sprint car racing, drivers, car owners, anything, would have a problem with you, having a day of practice at Eldora in the car you're going to race. Like, they don't think you could just walk in. And I think that's plausible. If you were to drive for Donnie Shots Stewart, I'm sure you could get some track time. But I don't think anyone would have a problem with that either. Like, they want you to have a fair shot at they want to see you come in there and kick some ass,
I don't personally want, I don't need to go to Eldora. You just need to.
Why not?
Like, honestly,
why not?
Man,
First time in a car,
well,
it's fair. I'm just saying the world would
when
see it as fair.
It's unrealistic because they're not going to let anybody test there. Like, that's the way it is.
I don't know. If you're driving for TSR,
listen, man, we're talking about something I think we all know is probably never going to happen.
No.
I'm just going to sit back and probably watch this thing like everybody else.
No,
like,
you're racing now. This is my goal in life. This is my goal in life.
Well, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. Like I said before, if like I told you about going to Tazewell Speedway or any track that's unsafe or hard,
sketchy,
and a little nervous, sketchy, if it's worth my time to do it, where I'm not going to like give up what I have worked my rear end off to get to, I have no problem. But if you're asking me to come in there and pay and listen, I go to the show.
No, we're putting you in a race car.
I'm just saying, like, here's the deal. Like, I paid for the rider at the Chili Bowl the year I won. I've never paid again. Like, I don't have to pay anymore.
Well,
right?
and you got that money back plus $5,000, pretty much.
Well, what I'm saying is like there is times in life that you, like, for me to go run a sprint car, I can't just do it just because we all think it's cool. I'd have to make sure that I'm make sure that it's financially right for me and everybody else. I'm not saying I get paid $1 million to do it. I'm just saying, like, no different than when guys come. When Kyle comes and runs with us, Kevin Rumley gets he has a financial whatever happens between the sponsorship and everything else. And I'm no Kyle Larson. I'm not trying to pretend that, but but for me to go to Eldora and run a sprint car, I just feel like, it had to be right for all of us. That's all.
So you're telling me if a team calls up and said, you're in the car if you want to do it, no expenses, you're in?
Well, I'd have to, give me a percentage. Well, listen, I'm not going to come race for $1 million and get paid nothing if I win it.
No, we have a car, we have an operation. You come in, you take 40%. We want you to drive.
What I'd like to do is go.
You would say yes to that.
I would say, hey, here's the deal. Before we waste any of our time, wherever you're at, I'll come out there and you push me off. We run some laps, and if I look like a fool, and you say, "Hey, man, you look like a fool," we're not doing it. Then we don't do it. That's that simple.
Well, that would be.
I'm not going to go flying. Well, I'm not going flying blind and like I did at the Chili Bowl back in 2005. That was a long time ago, man. Like, I literally flew in there and never even sat in a car before. And went out and made the show. But I'm not. Those days are over with. You're not doing. Nobody's doing that anymore.
We did see.
Hey, I'll tell you who's doing it. I'll tell you who does it. That Meserol, that kid, I watched him bring his seat when I was at a race a year and a half ago, and he brought his seat and put it in this wing sprint car and went out and won at Terre Haute. Like, literally just wheeled in with his seat. Like, that kid is talented. Like, but I'm not where he's at. I'm not doing that. I need some test time. Like, well, I need a fail-safe.
We have seen, sprint car guys go to late models with not only Larson, but Tyler Courtney didn't look bad at the Million. He was okay. And then, obviously, Jack Hewitt, which was a non-wing guy. Yeah. A lot of non-wing guys traditionally have a lot of success in late model racing, actually.
Exactly.
But what I was going to say is, why do you think that it may be easier for a sprint car guy to go to late models versus a late model guy going to sprint car? Is it really just that kind of fear factor, or what or driving style? I mean, I don't know. You would think that the styles would be able to transition. It seems like it's easier to go from a sprint car to a late model than the other way around.
Well, I think it's with the sprint cars, the way they sit down on the left rear and the way what they're trying to accomplish
with the wing.
The wing, obviously you got a wing on, so things change. It's so different comparable to what we do. Like, so our cars are always up. So we try to make them like slot cars. Keep them up. Don't ever let them sit down, and they just run around. And I noticed, like, when Parker Price Miller was driving, and we went and tested with him before Charlotte. And I don't know if it's just the way the sprint cars drive, but it's not that he's late. It's a weird deal. Like, he does things that make him late with the steering wheel with a late model car. And it's only time. Like, literally, the more time you do it, the less you do it.
Right.
So, like, he would do some things, and I'm like, hey, you know, it's weird. You do everything right, except you get to that one point, and you just do this deal. And he's like, well, when I drive my sprint car, I'm used to this. I'm like, oh, that's all it is. Once you can get by that, and maybe when you're going that fast in a sprint car, jumping into a late model feels like you're going slow, so that doesn't hurt. And
you got more time to do stuff, kind of.
You got more time to do stuff. The sprint car thing on my end of it is more of, it's a time issue with my age, and also just the way I've seen things go down.
I think your big block
life.
experience would transfer so well, though. Look at how
well,
good
I
Pouch
watched
was.
Stuart Friesen. I mean, you look at Stuart Friesen. He won a World of Outlaw sprint race.
Right.
So,
I think that the
your
big block experience will trump that late model experience, I think, and even your midget experience.
Well, I will say this. I feel like my big block identity coming from big blocks has been the reason I've been able to jump in different cars personally, like, because that's where I started. So I started there, and I went and drove a late model. I drove a midget. I've driven all these. Everything comes from starting out in a big block. I think non-wing sprint car drivers are very talented. Unfortunately, they're in a worse shape than we are, because they race for even less money, right?
Yeah.
And, like, those cars are dangerous, like really, really, like dangerous. Like, if
now,
you look at,
I would argue that I would say traditionally non-wings we see these big flips with arms coming out of the car and all that. I mean, look at Brady Bacon's wreck at Terre Haute when he went sky high. I would argue and say, though, safety's come so far that snap rolls ain't necessarily what's killing anyone anymore, because we got the neck, we got the head protection, we got the seats. The driver's cocooned in these cars now. The things that's killing people is hard, sudden impacts. And in every other car but a wing sprint car, you're lifting, you're slowing down on your entry, whereas with the wing on, you're speeding up, you're not lifting, you're shooting the gap. And the impacts are harder in the corners because they're on the throttle and 10 or 15 miles an hour faster.
Yeah, you're trying to get that car. Like, so what we do with our late model, trying to get it up on the left rear and get it into position by throttle, is what the sprint cars are trying to do to get their left rear in that one spot, that it gets down that little bit and gets that wing to catch whatever, when you're not really turning left, but you're kind of aimed left. It's all the same. Like, we're looking for the same thing, both of us, to try to never lift. And the crazy thing is, for me, it'd be such a different feel. It would take a little bit of time. Like, I can't say it wouldn't, but I've driven different things, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I could go out there and win, but I would hope that if I was out there, at least I'd be a little competitive, and if I wasn't, we'd work harder to get it competitive. Like,
right.
I'm
You're
not
just going to
roll
quit
into Charlotte and just, I'm not going to go roll into Charlotte, like you said, and do what Overton did. Like, I told Brandon, I'm like, hey, man, this is a tough deal you're getting ready to do. I said, have you sat in the car? And he's like, no. I'm like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? And it's just because he wanted to do it, but, like, and it's nothing against size, but, like, that's a tough deal. Like, if I brought any sprint car guy and never let him do anything, just send him up there for hot laps, I mean, what are we going to do here? You know, it's just not going to work out. So it's, like I said, at the end of the day, the days are over of just jumping. Like I said, bringing your seat to the track, get in this car, and win it. Like I told you, I watched Meserol do it a year and a half ago. I don't see many people carrying seats everywhere they go. I've seen him do it more than once. That kid's like, I know I harp on it. That kid's talented. Like, he's a hard driver and talented. To even remotely think you could roll into a place, throw your seat in it, and we didn't even race. We went to World Outlaw Sprint race at Terre Haute, and I think he was driving a 305 sprint car.
It was a 305. It was a local regional deal.
Yeah, I don't even care. We pulled our fancy truck in there, parked, unloaded the pit cart, and cleaned everything up. And he walked in with his seat over his shoulder, and I'm sure he knew the guys. I don't know them personally that well, but, like, I watched this dude put this seat in this race car, and they go out and dominate this 305 sprint race. Right. That's what guys like AJ Foyt and Rutherford and all them guys, when I was a kid, that's what they did.
Right.
And
you're saying it just
that.
ain't possible because of the competition level. That's why I would say, in a way, even though what Meserol did, I watched that night, by the way. It's cool, but Donnie Schatz has won regional late model, super late model races. That's incomparable to a national. A guy, I don't think a guy can just walk in, bolt in a seat in anything, even Thomas Mesereau, and win in a national series of a different kind. You know, I just don't think that's.
Well, yeah.
If that was the World of Outlaw Race Saver race, he wouldn't be. He wouldn't have won. Is what I'm saying. It was a race saver.
Well, no, I agree, but the fact that anybody's even doing that is wild to me. Like, you know, you look at these kids. None of these kids are just jumping in and going. They're all practicing a little bit. They're testing. They're doing, and that's part of life. Like, so a guy like me, when you say, "Hey, go run this race," well, I mean, how about we do this? How about we actually give it a real honest effort? Like,
well, I think
if we're gonna go, if I'm really gonna get out of my comfort level, how about we just roll in there and maybe upset the world, which would be one of the coolest retirement stories you've ever seen.
Oh my God! I'm telling you, this is my goal. You know? This is a goal of mine now. I think one of the biggest issues that racing has faced in the last 50 years of its existence is the celebration of young kids. You know, we need to get back to what we used to celebrate prior to the young gun surge of Jeff Gordon and start celebrating grown men. If you think about it, stars weren't born until 30s. You know, and at least you could work that way, you know.
Well, my dad told me, he said, Ian, you know, I was at my best at like 42 to 50. And I feel like, honestly, in my division where I'm at today, I'm as good as I've ever been. And I'm 48 years old.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, so doing something like this, giving publicity and giving a guy like you a shot instead of some little kid a little shot at the Eldora Million, for the sprint cars, that's way more important to me. So this is happening. I hope you're ready.
Well, like I said, if somebody, like I told you, if somebody calls me, we want to go somewhere, and at least go around a racetrack to see if I'm even remotely average. You know, then we go from there. I'm not going to do it and just show up at Eldora. Like, now, if we were going to show up at it, like the beauty of the Chili Bowl always was, that's a unique racetrack that's built once a year that nobody has time on. So for me to roll in there, like, I'm not much different than a lot of people that have ever showed up there. They don't know how this place is going to be because they don't see it every week.
Right.
Now, we're talking Eldora. Like, you know, I'm not Tyler Courtney, who's won all these races, or even JD. I've won my share there, but I'm not those guys. So to go to Eldora, I need a little bit in that type of a car. Like, let me see what I could do at wherever, and then we'll see.
Okay. Well, it's happening. So, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard it live here on the Chaz. Tim McCreadie is entering the Sprint Car Eldora Million. He is entering. And it's happening. It's happening.
Now, the beauty is anybody can enter. I can enter and then leave again halfway through the night.
He will be racing. It's happening. We're finding the damn way. Hey, life finds a way, and this is where's life right here. I'm just saying.